morning, Bears. Let's kick this off with a little video teaser, we call this.
Here is Egypt, Cairo, and the Giza Plateau with three large pyramids, those of Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. The Pyramid of Khufu was covered with white limestone, which is completely missing today. There are smaller pyramids called satellites, temples of which only ruins remain, and sanctuary tombs called mastabas. And below, the monumental statue of the Sphinx and the Valley Temple. Inside the Great Pyramid, there are two corridors, tunnels, one chamber 30 meters underground, a room in the middle called the Queen's Chamber, an upper room called the King's Chamber, a large inclined gallery, and four shafts which cross the pyramid. But what is exceptional and out of the ordinary? You are at the foot of the pyramid to take a photo. Stop for a moment to think a little. Imagine pushing and pulling a stone this size with 50 other people. Then imagine doing this with a second stone, then a third. You will have to raise them to a height of 5 meters, then 10, then 20, 40, 80, 120 meters. There are 2,300,000 waiting for you like this that will need to be transported and hoisted. It's dizzying. You look to the top, then to the bottom, and you start to reflect. Immediately the thought comes to mind, the Egyptians were crazy.
Okay, let's check this out. The mystery continues. Now, today, we got a lot to cover. This is a Thursday, Friday epic. So this video can carry you through tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're going to say hi on Zoom, and then I'm going to answer any questions, and then you're going to work most of the period because you're going to need it. This is the grand finale. Now, this essay is not due till Monday. We will read some of them on Monday. We'll go over those details of that essay in a minute. But first, let's get our last piece of research. Now, when I say last, that's for me guiding you. You can go all day long looking for this stuff. So this video has all kinds of claims. Let's look at the author. Let's look at the time period, because one of the things we want to look for is reliability. Remember, we looked at two sources that said slaves built the pyramids. We looked at another two sources that said no, slaves did not build the pyramids. We looked at a fifth source, evidence, that's the one we called episode, said it was probably a combination of both, but still mostly slaves. So now let's see, this was put out 2019, this says, is the movie, but it was in French. Right now it's being released here November 1st. That's a month ago. So a month ago this was being released. Pretty current updates. He's got some probably controversial or new claims. We don't believe what anybody says. Just because the last thing we looked at says it was both, we don't know if that guy's right. And maybe it was no slaves at all. And so we want to make our own decisions based on research. Now, this video is 3 hours long. If you are really into this, this has great details, great special effects. Also talks a little bit about the Mayans and how we talked about the Egyptians traveled, possibly, it's not guaranteed, but pretty likely now they're finding that the Egyptians traveled to the Americas, and that's why you see very similar pyramids. Also, this talks a lot about those Nubians and how the Egyptians, more than just 5 pharaohs, predominantly were dark-skinned African people that ran that empire for years and years and years. And so there's a lot of interesting things in this. So I highly recommend watching this video. I will place it in groups. Where I'm going to fast forward now. And like I said, you can always scroll videos like this and kind of see things. But I'm going to fast forward and look at what they say about the slaves. Then we're going to talk about that information, get our slides ready, and we'll go over the CER epic. Bottom line, you're going to talk about what do people say about the pyramids, who do they say built them, and finally you're going to make your claim. What's your claim on the pyramids? All right, let's get started.
which is 1.1 meters wide by 1 meter high, with an error of only 1 centimeter from beginning to end. Here is a tunnel of our time. They cut and transported around 130 blocks of granite weighing 12 to 70 tons from Aswan, and they raised them 80 meters high. The pyramid is not built with 4 sides, but with 8 sides in a concave abathum. The pyramid is oriented to the north with an error of 0.05 degrees. According to Egyptologists, the construction lasted about 20 years, meaning one block was cut and transported and installed.
So now listen, we're going to start getting into these facts. That 20 years corroborates with some of our other evidence. Remember, some people might have gotten some things wrong, but maybe they got some things right. So right now we've seen at least 3 different sources say 20 years, lots of blocks. Now coming up is a little bit of science tie-in to our oxygen, so pay attention. This is kind of fun.
Installed every 3 minutes. It is impossible to pass a sheet of paper between the blocks. How does one explain that these blocks weighing several tons were cut with such precision? This was the copper era, and logically the construction had to be carried out with a copper chisel and a stone ball. This is the academic's theory. Let's continue with other prowesses in precision. The downward tunnel forms an angle of 26.2 degrees. This angle is identical in the ascending corridor. A student's protractor does not display the 0.2 of a degree, but the most impressive remains to come with the South Underground Tunnel and the well shaft 30 meters underground. At first glance, they are ordinary tunnels. The entrance is 79 centimeters high and ends 16 meters further with a difference of only 5 centimeters. It's 75 centimeters wide at one end and 76 centimeters at the other end, a difference of 1 centimeter. An almost perfectly straight line.
This is why you have to pay attention
How
to
does
math.
one build this tunnel with such precision underground? The Egyptians went even further in their exploits. The well shaft starts near the underground chamber, rises almost vertically 10 meters, to then continue 26 meters with an angle of 45 degrees, with perfect dimensions, 68 by 68 centimeters. Georges Goyon thinks that the well shaft was dug by thieves from the bottom to the top shortly after the funeral. So then thieves would have taken the time to dig a perfectly straight tunnel? Gilles Dormian believes, on the contrary, that the tunnel was built by the original builders and that it was dug from the top down. The notches for placing the feet are much too small for a...
Notice 2 different views. This is why we study, we analyze, we solve mysteries. We don't trust what anybody says. We do our own research. So 2 different views on this. And this is pretty, this guy's 1996, a while ago. This guy looks a little more recent. Now watch for the oxygen tie-in to science.
For a worker to be able to stand a long time without a rope, digging above his head. To dig these 3 tunnels and the underground chamber, you must solve 4 problems. You need light, a solution for making precise measurements, and hard tools for digging, correct working conditions, and above all, a solution for removing the carbon dioxide. The biggest problem is indeed the
CO2, carbon dioxide. Remember, we breathe that out. Well, where's that going to go? This is why you suffocate if you're in a place without air. So you can watch this later to solve these problems. Let's go see what they say about the slaves.
to pull the stone weighing 2 tons from the port to the site. How then did they get the granite stone from the king's chamber, which weighs 70 tons, and lift it 50 meters high? The only ancient testimony about the construction of the pyramid is that of Herodotus, who was born 2,000 years later. Herodotus heard this story told by the Egyptian priests in Memphis during his trip to Egypt. Herodotus explains that the stones were hoisted with cranes. Thus, many Egyptologists offer their theories based on the story of Herodotus. And since the blocks are very heavy, the most logical solutions are ramps and cranes. Dozens of models of ramps. Each Egyptologist invents a ramp. Here is the spiral ramp of Georges Goyon, the ramp of Borchardt, and Jean-Pierre Adams' ramp. The problem is that among all these theories, none has been tested in real life. That is to say, for example, not even a simple trial of hoisting at least 2 stones 10 meters high. Besides, one still doesn't know where the quarry that supplied the interior stones is located. From there, or there. In a documentary, the architect Jean-Pierre Houdin, in collaboration with Dassault Systems Laboratories, develops a theory, and like so many others, still offers a ramp. Here, the ramp is as monumental as the pyramid itself. This ramp is copied in the Hollywood film 10,000 BC. Hollywood also adds mammoths. One sees nasty Egyptians mistreating mammoths, pulling blocks of stones. Of course, no traces of mammoths or of the ramp were ever found. The ramp alone is a monumental.
Okay, here we go. So we've got more and more mysteries. So like I said, if you want to dive into this film, 3 hours long, it's pretty cool. There's all kinds of different stuff. And it is another mystery. How did they even build it? Forget about who built it. Now in this film, you will also see that they do make their claim that the slaves did not build the pyramid, because in this film they claim they didn't need that many people. They didn't need the hundreds of thousands of people that some people think you needed. Why? Because, well, I'm going to let it be a mystery. You'll find out. Let's check one last thing.
There is a problem with the granite. In 1920, the Egyptologist Engelbach published a book on the Aswan obelisk. Finding no trace of pickaxe or chisel on the obelisk, he theorized that the dolerite balls that were all around were the tools used.
So, once again, the mystery continues. I'll let you solve that one on your own. So right now, let's get back into the essay of the day. Here's the overview. It's in groups. I will post it. Here's what you're going to want to do. Come on into groups. Thursday, Friday, Epic. Use links below. Some may need to log in with parents if they don't work on school account, including the video I just created. This part here you might want to copy and paste into your slideshow. I know I've seen other people do that before. That way it's right there on a slide you can look at, or just open another tab. We all know how to do this. It's a basic CER, but it's just 5 paragraphs instead of 5 sentences. Here's your outline. You all have your outline in your FIST essay format in your slideshow to guide you. Basically, you're going to do an intro. You're going to state what you will be talking about, give background of the mystery of the pyramids and why there is a debate, state your claim. When there's an I and a there, it's about people. And this is not about people. When there is a debate, little English for you, state your claim. Body paragraph number 1. So notice, first paragraph, second paragraph, talk about the evidence from the evidence slides 1 and 2. Who were those sources? Were they reliable? What did they say? Body paragraph number 2. So this is your third paragraph in the essay. Talk about the 3 and 4 evidence slides. Who were they? Were they reliable? And what was their claim? Paragraph number 3. Anything you just learned in the movie that could help you. And or the 5th slide that says it was mostly slaves, but also a little bit of people that did it because they wanted to. Keep in mind, all of those sources assume those giant blocks had to be moved up ramps like we just saw in the video. If you go check out the video some more, you'll see that they're using concrete and molds. There's a whole different technology that we have today, and they believe they had then, that would allow the pyramids to be built with still a lot of people, but not so intense labor that you would need slaves. So you can research that on your own in the video. And then finally, in your conclusion, just write a summary of what do you think? You've been learning about Egypt. You can talk about some other things in Egypt if you want. This is a place to talk about aliens if you want, or anything you learned during this week, or anything about King Tut, or whatever you want to do, you can put in this conclusion, but make sure you state your claim on who built the pyramids. All right, remember, this whole thing's due Monday. Let's get started. I will be here on Friday to answer questions, but to mainly help you work and get this essay going. All right, check the links out. It's going to be fun. Here we go.